All right, let's jump right in. We're about to explore a really powerful theory that completely reframes why we feel the way we do. It all comes from the work of Dr. Michael Lukens. He's a clinical psychologist and an emotions theorist who specializes in some heavy stuff, like trauma and relationships. His big idea is called the physics of emotioning, and trust me, it's like getting a new language to understand our own inner world.
But first, let's start with a question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. Why is it so easy to feel completely torn in two? To have those love-hate feelings about someone, or just feel pulled in totally opposite directions at the same time. It's like our own feelings are the biggest mystery of all. Well, we're going to unpack a theory that gives some pretty incredible answers to that exact question.
So here's where we're headed. First, we'll look at why our feelings get so complicated in the first place. Then, we'll dive into the heart of Dr. Lukens' theory, the physics of emotioning. From there, we'll explore that pull of mixed feelings, look at the inner defense systems we build, and then, this is the big one, discover what he calls the true force of love. And finally, we'll talk about how we can actually let that force win.
You know that feeling of being pulled in two directions? It's not just in your head. It actually points to something fundamental we all deal with, this constant state of internal conflict. We're drawn to something, but at the same time we're pushed away. This internal tug-of-war is exactly where our story begins.
So, how in the world do we make sense of that constant conflict? Well, we need a new way of looking at it. And that brings us to the core of this whole thing, the physics of emotioning.
So, Dr. Lukens' theory suggests that our actions, our behaviors, they're not random, not at all. They're driven by these incredibly powerful motivational forces. And the big question is, where do these forces come from? Well, according to him, they are generated by the specific meaning that we, and only we, assign to everything around us. It's a total game changer for how you look at your own behavior.
And this right here is the most important part. The whole theory is built on this idea that objects, situations, people, they don't have some kind of built-in meaning. We are constantly, actively, and a lot of the time unconsciously assigning meaning to them. We are, for all intents and purposes, meaning-creating machines.
Let's make this super simple. Take a look at this. What is it? Well, to a little kid, it's a toy, right? Something to throw. To a physicist, it's a sphere with very specific properties. As Dr. Lukens points out, to a dog owner, it might be a chew toy. The meaning isn't in the ball. The meaning is projected onto the ball by whoever is looking at it.
Okay, now let's take it up a notch with a much more complex symbol. This document can create these incredibly powerful and wildly different emotions. Someone who sees themselves as a patriot might look at this and see a sacred symbol of freedom, maybe even be moved to tears. But someone who sees America as an enemy might see the exact same thing as a symbol of oppression and be moved to burn it. Same object, totally opposite motivational forces, and it's all based on the meaning they assign to it. And this example, this gets right to our gut emotional reactions. An animal lover could look at this creature and see something of profound beauty. But for someone with a phobia, this exact same image triggers pure terror. The snake itself isn't beautiful or terrifying. Our reaction? It's 100% our own creation.
This quote, which Dr. Lukens highlights in his work, just nails the whole idea. In our world, a world shaped by language and symbols, we're always in this dance of meaning. And the rule is simple. If you don't actively define what things mean to you, someone or something else will define them for you.
So, being a meaning-making machine sounds pretty powerful, right? But what happens when we assign multiple, totally competing meanings to the exact same thing? Well, that's when we get the pull of mixed feelings.
This is what Dr. Lukens calls ambivalence, and here's the key. He says it's not a weakness or a flaw. He frames it as a basic, fundamental fact of being human. We are always being pulled by competing emotional forces because almost nothing has just one single meaning for us. That right there, that is the real source of feeling torn in two.
Okay, so if we're living in this constant state of inner chaos, how do we deal with it? Well, our first instinct is to try and control it. We build what you could call an inner defense system.
So let's look at this diagram from the source material. Imagine this oval represents your entire emotional world. Every single feeling you're capable of having, from joy and love to fear, sadness, and shame. And right there in the middle, that's you, the self-aware part that's trying to manage this whole experience.
And this is how we try to manage it. We create what's called a defense boundary. You see those little X's? They represent all the ways we try to refuse our own feelings.
We deny them, we repress them, we push them down, we run from them. We do literally anything to keep those unwanted feelings, like fear or sadness, outside of what we're aware of in the moment.
But here's the problem. What happens when that defense system gets overwhelmed? This diagram shows it perfectly. The unwanted feelings breach the boundary. The defenses fail, and we experience what we might call emotional overwhelm, breakdown, anxiety, depression. Our very attempt to control our reality leads to us losing control completely.
So, if our defenses are pretty much doomed to fail eventually, what's the alternative? What is the organizing principle that can bring some kind of harmony to our inner world? Well, the theory points to one powerful answer: the true force of love.
But Dr. Lukens gives it a very specific name: committed benevolent interest, or CBI for short. He defines this as the healthy, pure essence of what love really is. It's not some fleeting passion or a temporary feeling. It's a deep, steady, unwavering commitment to the well-being of others and, this is really important, of yourself too.
And the difference here is absolutely crucial. Think about it. So much of what we call love is focused on how the other person makes us feel. The passion, the excitement, the pleasure. CBI is totally different. It's focused outward. It's about respecting and empowering the other person, acting for their well-being, even when it's hard or requires sacrifice. And when we actually operate from this place, CBI is like a superpower. It's what forges those deep connections and trust that make us emotionally resilient. On a bigger scale, it's the very foundation of how we cooperate as a society. It promotes healing. And maybe most importantly, it's what drives our moral growth.
So, all of this builds to one final, really empowering idea: the concept of letting love win.
The ultimate message of this whole theory is that CBI, this true form of love, is the ultimate unifying force in our emotional universe. But here's the twist. We don't have to go out and make it win. The capacity for it is already in us. Our job is to just let it win, which really means getting our own defenses, our fears, and our desperate need for control out of the way.
This quote from the biologist Humberto Maturana, which is referenced in the source material, just drives the point home perfectly. Love isn't some kind of luxury item. It's a biological necessity. We are, as he says, love-dependent animals. We literally get sick when we don't have it, no matter how old we are. It is a fundamental part of our design.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. By understanding that we're the ones creating our own emotional reality, that feeling torn is totally normal, and that our own defenses are often the real problem, well, we can start to see a path forward. So, what if understanding these physics of emotion is the actual key to finally getting out of our own way and letting that innate, unifying force of love win in our own lives?